On a desolate field full of sunlight and wind in southern Africa, where the ground cracked under the scorching heat and winds whipped up dust obscuring everything, there lived a pair of lions that had roamed freely for many years. The male lion, with a mane as black as burnt coal, and the resilient, calm female lion, were the proud vagabonds of the savanna. They often hunted together, traversing the vast grasslands without tiring, surviving by instinct and the tight coordination between the two wild individuals. However, nature does not always favor. The harsh climate gradually depleted the land, the water sources disappeared, and the herds of antelope, their primary source of sustenance, began to dwindle. Faced with the increasingly obvious hunger, the male and female lions were forced to leave their familiar territory to seek a new land, a place of hope for survival. They traversed barren and dangerous lands, confronting chronic hunger and encountering other predators on numerous occasions. At night, the male lion always stood guard, while the female lion took the opportunity to rest under the starry sky to regain her strength for the next leg of their journey. You are following the story at People and Discovery. Likes or channel subscriptions will be a huge motivation for us to bring interesting stories, so please support us. After several weeks of relentless wandering, they followed the scent of water and signs of life, leading them to Mikado National Park, a vast sanctuary renowned for its expansive grasslands and rich ecosystem. Upon arriving, the male and female lions immediately sniffed around to find a safe refuge. Before them lay entirely unfamiliar sights: patrol cars, lookout posts, and metal fences. They could not understand what these were, but instinct told them this was a different land. And who knows, it might also be the beginning of a new chapter in their survival journey. In the heart of Mikado National Park, where the wild nature still retains its rare pristine qualities, two veteran staff members, Saifo and Namsa, began to notice something unusual. One by one, they had become too familiar with every footprint, every roar, and every rhythm of life in the grasslands. Therefore, when large unfamiliar footprints appeared along the bank of the central river, they immediately recognized that this was the arrival of new guests, a pair of lions never before recorded in the sanctuary. Saifo had been associated with Mikado for over 2 decades. As an experienced patrol driver, he knew every path and every tree by heart. Namsa, an animal behavior specialist, diligently recorded every slightest change in the ecosystem. Upon discovering the tracks of the strange lions, they decided to observe them from a distance, avoiding causing disturbance or creating a sense of threat. In the early days, each night the male lion roared loudly, asserting his claim over the new territory, even though no one acknowledged him. That roar echoed across the grassland, spreading through the mist, momentarily silencing the entire forest. The female lion, on the other hand, appeared restless and not truly at ease. She moved continuously, sometimes pausing cautiously, as if trying to familiarize herself with every strange scent. Saifo and Namsa quietly recorded everything: the hunting rhythm, resting time, and their interactions. Despite signs of fatigue from the lengthy journey, the male and female lions remained agile enough to take down small prey like wild rabbits or young antelopes. However, what caught Namsa's attention the most was the unusually slow, heavy gait of the lioness. Her intuition told her that the lioness was pregnant. Saifo agreed. He also noticed how the male lion, who was usually very independent and proud, was now silently but distinctly attentive to and protective of his mate. Both felt a quiet joy. If this were true, then the presence of both the male and female lions was not only a rare phenomenon but also good news for the growth of the lion population in the reserve. 4 months passed, and the lioness's belly was now visibly large. Her gait became laborious, moving slowly and often resting in the shade of trees. Saifo no longer conducted patrols as before. He prepared basic medical equipment in the vehicle, in case of an emergency. Namsa monitored the lioness daily, meticulously noting her feeding times, resting periods, mobility levels, and emotional expressions of both the lioness and the male lion. Everyone hoped that the lioness would give birth safely. But life in the wild was never predictable. One hot afternoon, as the sky turned a copper color and the air felt dense, the lioness began to go into labor. She lay on the grass, panting with each breath. The contractions came in waves. The male lion stood by, pacing in clear distress, his mane bristled like a warning. Time passed. One day. Then the second day. There was no sign of the cub being born. The lioness began to moan continuously, her body trembling from exhaustion. Namsa and Saifo observed from afar. They felt increasingly uneasy. If they did not intervene, the lioness could die, and the cub in her womb would be buried along with her in that cruel fate. But they could not sedate the lioness, it was too dangerous during labor. Sedating the male lion was also unwise, as the lioness could panic or flee. A small mistake could cost them their lives. Finally, they decided to step into the danger zone. Saifo started the vehicle, slowly driving towards the lions. With each meter closer, their hearts pounded harder. When the vehicle stopped about 20 meters away, the male lion roared, a sound full of caution, echoing through the air like a final warning. Namsa took a deep breath, tightly grasped the medical kit, and stepped out. In her hand was a syringe for labor assistance. She and Saifo moved cautiously, their eyes never leaving the male lion. The male lion approached and positioned himself between them and his mate. But instead of attacking, he merely let out a low growl, a sound no longer aggressive, but seemingly full of worry. Namsa spoke soothingly, her voice steady and gentle, while Saifo stood ready to react in case of trouble. The lioness remained there, moaning weakly, her eyes half closed. Namsa moved closer, bent down, and gently touched her belly. A human hand touched the wild lion's fur for the first time, but the lioness did not resist. She lay still. Namsa quickly injected the medicine and then retreated, returning with Saifo to the vehicle to wait. Time passed slowly as if holding its breath. 1 hour. Then nearly 2. The lioness began to tense up. The contractions grew stronger. And then, in the brilliant afternoon sun, a tiny being let out its first cry. A cub was born, wet, weak, but alive. The lioness panted, but her eyes were radiant. The male lion approached, gently licking his cub's head with his large tongue. Saifo softly cheered from the vehicle, while Namsa felt tears quietly streaming down her cheeks. They named the male lion Koda and the female lion Leia, and the cub Mosi, meaning a new beginning. Leia symbolizes hope, while Koda represents bravery and loyalty. In the field, the 3 lions have now become a complete family. Saifo and Namsa stepped back, giving them privacy. In the sunset, they sat in the car, silently observing, their hearts filled with happiness. The next day, they returned. Koda and Leia stood on the grassy slope, while Mosi ran playfully around his mother's legs. As the familiar vehicle passed by, all 3 turned to look. There was no more growling, no more fear, just a familiar gaze, like a silent thank you. In the work journal, Saifo wrote, "The day Mosi was born, the day Mikado became more sacred than ever." The story of Koda, Leia, and Mosi quickly spread throughout the reserve as a vivid tale of courage, maternal instinct, and the magical connection between humans and nature. Each time the patrol vehicle passed by the area where the 3 lions lived, they would turn to look back. Not with fear, but with a look of remembrance, a silent, profound gratitude. Koda no longer growled in warning whenever he saw Saifo and Namsa's vehicle. Instead, he just stole a glance and continued to stand guard like a silent protector. Leia affectionately licked Mosi, the young cub, now growing stronger, had started to practice running, pouncing, and making those early, tender growls. Mosi is the embodiment of a new beginning, not just for the lion family, but also for Mikado. For all the staff in the reserve, Koda, Leia, and Mosi are not just 3 individuals being monitored. They symbolize success in conservation efforts, a reminder of why they chose to commit to this land. The footage capturing the moment Mosi was born was included in educational programs, inspiring many generations of young nature lovers. Saifo and Namsa continued their work as usual, but in their hearts, the image of Leia's first look when accepting help, Koda's soft growl at night, and Mosi's fragile cry remained vivid as on the first day. They understood that if not for that moment, if they had hesitated, if they had faltered, perhaps those 3 lives would not have come together to create such a beautiful story. Under the brilliant dawn, the 3 lion figures stood out against the green grass like a living painting. And every time Saifo and Namsa's vehicle passed by, the gazes of Koda, Leia, and Mosi would connect with them, like a silent greeting between 2 worlds, once again affirming that when humans know how to love and act with their hearts, nature is always willing to respond with miracles. Dear friend, thank you for taking the time to follow the story. Don't forget to leave your comments about the story and hit like and subscribe to the channel to receive the latest stories as quickly as possible.